It's called the long goodbye. Alzheimer's disease robs victims of their memories, their relationships, even their sense of who they are. It slowly steals their life away long before their heart stops beating. But what if there was a way to reverse the symptoms of Alzheimer's? Well, it turns out there is. Here's our medical reporter, Lori Johnson, with some very good news.
A number of Alzheimer's patients are describing how they regained their memory after starting the Bredesen protocol. It's not a drug. Instead, it's a number of lifestyle changes, including diet, exercise, and much more, each designed to address the approximately 40 different causes of Alzheimer's.
As you can imagine, I was terrified.
9 years ago, after Julie Gregory got lost on a very familiar road, she soon learned she had Alzheimer's.
I had lived in this town in the foothills of Georgia for 20 years, and I would run into people in shops who knew me very well, and Lori, I had no idea who they were. My personality began to change.
Julie also learned no cure or viable treatment exists for the disease.
I even contemplated ending my own life. And I think prayer brought me to the point where I realized what I was learning from mainstream medicine just wasn't true. I began to believe in this voice that was telling me there was something I could do.
She tried the Bredesen protocol, got back to normal, and has stayed there ever since.
What he does is identify and address every person's contributor to their symptoms. It's just plain old common sense, and my experience shows me that it works.
Sally Weinrich tells a similar story.
I forgot to pick up my grandchildren twice, one morning in the morning for school, within a month period of time.
5 years ago, Sally also considered suicide after experiencing the unmistakable signs of Alzheimer's.
I had 2 relatives die from it, really 3 relatives die from it, on both sides of my family. I knew I was at risk for it. I had a dread for it.
She believes God led her to Dr. Dale Bredesen.
I had all of the Dr. Bredesen's causes of Alzheimer's, and I think in my case, my Alzheimer's would have progressed very rapidly.
Instead, the opposite happened.
The best thing about my Alzheimer's today is I have answers for it, and I have reversed it. It's wonderful. I love life. I enjoy life.
Sally, Julie, and 5 others describe their amazing reversals in The First Survivors of Alzheimer's, how patients recovered life and hope in their own words.
They gave their specific protocols because they are personalized. Here's what each person did, how they did it, what their workarounds were, etc.
Over 2,000 people are currently on the plan. Clinical trial results released in 2020 showed 84% of plan participants with mild cognitive impairment experienced improved cognition. 12% continued to decline, and 4% showed no change.
In the people in our trial that we recently published, we actually saw increase instead of decrease in their gray matter in their brain. So you can actually see that there's improvement not only in their test scores, but also in their MRIs.
The first step of the protocol is the so-called cognoscopy to determine a person's individual risk of cognitive decline. This involves a computer quiz to assess your mental capability, as well as a number of blood tests to identify which areas a person needs to make changes.
And often there are 10 or more, and then we target those with a precision medicine sort of approach.
For most, that involves a low-carbohydrate diet, intermittent fasting, plenty of exercise, sleep, eliminating toxic exposures, as well as hormone and nutrient balancing.
Identifying those things and addressing them is how we see these people surviving so well.
It's a lot of effort and some expense, but people like Sally and Julie say it's better than the alternative.
Larry, they used to talk about amyloid plaques. There was some kind of a germ or bacteria that cause this. The Bredesen protocol just debunks that, doesn't it?
Sort of. They say that the amyloid plaques that develop in your brain that are associated with Alzheimer's, those are not the cause of Alzheimer's. Those plaques are actually a protection mechanism to protect our brain for the actual things that are attacking the brain. So if the idea is to get rid of the amyloid plaques, that's not going to solve the problem. That you have to get rid of the things that are attacking your brain. And so that's kind of those two areas of thought. And the medical community right now, Pat, is sort of divided about the issue of amyloid plaques. Of course, everybody knows that they're associated with Alzheimer's. Some say they're the cause, so we got to get rid of them. Other people, like Dr. Dale Bredesen, say they're a result of the insults of all these other things on the brain, and that they're not the cause, that you really need to go to that source.
Well, the FDA hadn't approved the Bredesen protocol, has it? But they're talking about they may have one drug they are approving.
That's right. So the Bredesen protocol is not approved by the FDA because, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's not a drug. It's not a pharmaceutical product. It's not a combination of drugs or pharmaceutical products. So, but that's not to say that a lot of doctors aren't behind it. There are 2,000 doctors, medical doctors, who have trained in the Bredesen protocol. I actually go to one right here in this area. A year ago, I went to her. She's a medical doctor. I had my cognoscopy. I've been on the Bredesen protocol for an entire year, and there are lots of other doctors around the country who can help people with it. And to find out more information, go to our website, cbnnews.com. You can hear my personal story. You can watch the entire interview that I just did with Dr. Bredesen.